Step back in time and rediscover 30 forgotten recipes that take just 10 minutes. But pack a lifetime of flavor. These speedy classics deserve a comeback in your kitchen. Let's dig in. Once a pantry staple, sardine toast was beloved for its speed, protein, and bold flavor. You'd toast thick slices of bread, smear them with grainy mustard, layer on canned sardines, and top with thinly sliced raw onion. That's it. It takes less than 10 minutes and offers a smoky, salty, satisfying bite. Found in 1940s lunch counters and era cookbooks, sardine toast was especially popular among working-class families and war wives looking for high-protein meals that didn't require a ration book. Today, sardines are still affordable and incredibly nutritious, but few remember this classic combo. The tang of mustard, the crunch of toast, and the punch of onion make it unforgettable. If you've never tried sardines this way, you're missing a wildly underrated dish. It's the kind of fast food that your great-grandparents swore by, and you'll be shocked how tasty it still is. One bite and you'll know, this old-school snack deserves a place back on the plate. In the 1960s and 70s, this sandwich was a diner favorite and a household hero. Quick, greasy, and satisfying, it was the perfect breakfast for dinner or midnight snack. You simply fried a slice or two of bologna in a hot pan until it curled at the edges, cracked in an egg, and cooked both in the same skillet. Sandwich it between white bread or a buttered bun. Maybe add a slice of American cheese if you had it, and done. It was ready in under 10 minutes and felt like something far more indulgent than its humble ingredients would suggest. Found in truck stops and school lunchboxes, it fueled generations on a budget. Though it's largely vanished from modern menus, the nostalgia is undeniable. Bring it back, and you'll rediscover the power of crispy edges, gooey yolk, and smoky bologna, all in a handheld hug of a sandwich. In Eastern European homes, this dish was comfort food at its fastest. Called halooki in some kitchens, it needed just boiled egg noodles, sautéed shredded cabbage, and a generous knob of butter. In under 10 minutes, the butter coated every strand of noodle and ribbon of cabbage, making it creamy, savory, and satisfying. You could add a sprinkle of salt and pepper, or garlic powder if you were feeling fancy. It was often made during Lent, in tight weeks before payday, or when the fridge was nearly empty. Despite its simplicity, it's rich in flavor and history. Passed down in church cookbooks and scribbled on recipe cards, it's the type of dish that vanishes from menus, but lives forever in memory. Today, we complicate pasta, but cabbage and butter noodles prove that 3 ingredients, 1 pan, and 10 minutes can create something unforgettable. But just ahead, we stir up a forgotten 1930s soup that takes less time than making a sandwich. During the Great Depression, tomato soup wasn't something you bought. It was something you made from whatever was on hand. This 10-minute version came together with boiling water, a bit of tomato paste or canned tomatoes, and a spoonful of flour to thicken. A pat of butter or a splash of milk, if available, made it creamy. Some added saltines directly into the pot to bulk it up. The result? A warm, tangy, slightly sweet soup that filled you up fast. Kids slurped it from mugs. Adults paired it with whatever stale bread they had. It was comfort in a cup, and it cost next to nothing. While store-bought soup dominates today, this homemade classic deserves a revival, not just because it's fast, but because it's full of character. Add basil or garlic if you like, or keep it true to its roots. Either way, you'll taste a bowl full of history and realize just how good making do can be. This strange but perfect combo was a 1950s diner hack that showed up in everything from school lunches to cookbooks with titles like Quick Meals for the Modern Housewife. Toast was slathered with peanut butter, smooth or crunchy, and topped with a few crisp strips of bacon. Sweet, salty, smoky, and rich, it was a flavor bomb made in minutes. Some even drizzled it with honey or maple syrup for a sweet twist. The dish became a favorite for those looking to stretch their ingredients. Just a slice or two of bacon gave the peanut butter a whole new life. Fast, hearty, and high energy, it fueled everyone from kids to truck drivers. Today, it's rarely seen outside of nostalgic cookbooks, but one bite and you'll see why it worked. In less than 10 minutes, you can recreate a forgotten favorite that proves bold flavor doesn't require fancy ingredients, just a little imagination and a hot pan. Did your family have a weird toast combo like this? Tell us your version. We'd love to try it. Before microwaves and panini presses, the fastest way to make a melt was the campfire method, and this one's straight from old scout manuals and 1950s camping guides. Mix canned tuna with mayo, a spoon of relish, maybe some onion, and slap it between 2 slices of bread with a slice of cheese. Wrap it in foil and place it over a campfire, hot plate, or in a hot skillet with something heavy on top. In just 5 to 7 minutes, the bread crisps, the cheese melts, and the tuna warms through. It's smoky, gooey, and satisfying in all the right ways. In the 1960s, this was a go-to after-school snack or lunch for busy parents needing to feed hungry kids fast. It's still the quickest way to make something hot, hearty, and homemade without dirtying more than a single skillet or foil square. Try it again, and you'll see. It doesn't need a fire to spark serious flavor. Coming up, a breakfast for dinner dish so fast and savory, you'll wonder why it ever left the table. We all know the sweet version, but savory French toast? That was once a weeknight staple in budget-conscious homes. Old cookbooks often called it egg bread. Instead of sugar and cinnamon, the egg milk dip was seasoned with salt, pepper, and dried herbs, sometimes a dash of hot sauce. Slices of bread were soaked, then pan-fried until golden and crisp on the outside, custardy inside, topped with ketchup, mustard, or even leftover gravy. It was fast, filling, and shockingly good. Some versions added shredded cheese or chopped ham to the batter. It was a way to use up old bread and create something warm and satisfying with only a few ingredients. Kids loved it. Parents loved how quickly it hit the table. Today, we've forgotten this savory twist, but it's overdue for a comeback. Try it with sourdough or rye and top it with a fried egg. Suddenly, you've got dinner in 10 minutes flat. Before prepackaged pasta salads, there was this: leftover macaroni, mayo, chopped pickles, a bit of onion, and maybe a boiled egg, if you had it. Stir it all together cold, and lunch was served. In 1940s and 50s kitchens, this was a default recipe, especially in summer when no one wanted to cook. It took less than 10 minutes if your pasta was already made, which it often was from the night before. You could dress it up with celery, mustard, paprika, or a handful of peas, but even plain, it hit the spot. Packed into lunch boxes or scooped onto plates with crackers and canned peaches, it became a common sight at potlucks, church picnics, and factory lunchrooms. It's simple, it's tangy, and it's one of those dishes that still tastes like someone loved you enough to mix it together. Bring it back and you'll see. Cold macaroni salad isn't just a side dish, it's a shortcut to comfort. In old cookbooks, this quick soup was called egg drop milk toast, and it was a popular cure-all for colds, bad days, and empty wallets. You brought a small pot of milk or water to a simmer, tore in some buttered toast, and gently swirled in a beaten egg to create silky ribbons, just like Chinese egg drop soup, but with bread. Salt, pepper, and maybe a sprinkle of dried herbs made it surprisingly satisfying. It took barely 5-7 minutes to make, and could be eaten from a mug while bundled in a blanket. Moms made it for sick kids, new moms, or anyone who needed warmth. It disappeared as prepackaged soups became the norm, but there's something beautiful about turning toast, egg, and milk into a meal that soothes your soul. Try it once, and you'll wonder why it ever left the recipe books. But next, we revive the fastest comfort casserole you've never heard of, straight from 1950s stovetops. A 1950s staple that disappeared far too quietly. Creamed peas on toast was the original get dinner on the table now recipe. You'd heat a can of peas in a saucepan with a pat of butter, a spoonful of flour, and a splash of milk. Stir until it thickens into a creamy sauce, then ladle it over buttered toast. Done in under 10 minutes, this dish was especially popular in post-war kitchens that relied on canned goods and ration-friendly ingredients. Kids didn't always love peas, but somehow the creaminess and warm toast made it all better. Some recipes added diced ham or mushrooms if they were around. It was filling, fast, and frugal, perfect for nights when meat wasn't on the menu. Today, it's barely remembered, but those who grew up with it never forgot. Give it a try, and you'll be surprised how a can of peas and a slice of toast can still taste like love. Which one of these throwback recipes would you actually make today? Share your pick below. We might just feature it in a future list. Sweet meets savory in this quick bite from 1950s lunch tables and regional church cookbooks. A slice of sharp cheddar cheese layered with thinly sliced apple, usually tart varieties like Granny Smith or Macintosh, was sandwiched between slices of soft bread or saltine crackers. Optional additions included a smear of mustard or a drizzle of honey, depending on who made it. It took under 5 minutes and required no stove, no pan, just flavor. The cheddar gave it protein and saltiness, while the apple added crunch and freshness. For busy homemakers or kids headed out the door, it was a perfect 10-minute meal. Found often in lunchbox menus and advertised in vintage dairy pamphlets, it was marketed as brain food for children. Today it's nearly forgotten, but when done right, it's still refreshing, satisfying, and way more sophisticated than it sounds. Try it grilled or raw. You might be shocked how well it holds up in today's snacking world. Before tortilla chips took over, saltine crackers were the MVP of quick snacks, and saltine nachos were the poor man's version of loaded chips. Spread out a few crackers on a tray, top with shredded cheese, chopped onion, or sliced jalapenos if you had them, and pop under the broiler for 2 to 3 minutes. Some versions added diced tomatoes, kidney beans, or canned olives. It wasn't pretty, but it was fast and delicious. These were especially common in college dorms, rural kitchens, and among single dads and teenage babysitters who just needed something warm and salty in a hurry. Dip them in ketchup, hot sauce, or nothing at all. They hit every comfort craving with just pantry basics. Today, the idea seems quaint, but give it one try, and you'll wonder why we ever stopped using saltines as a nacho base. It's simple, nostalgic, and perfect for when the fridge is empty, but the craving for something crunchy won't quit. A beloved bar snack in early 20th century German-American taverns, onion bread was fast, hot, and boldly flavorful. You'd spread soft bread with butter or lard, top it with thin slices of raw onion, salt, and pepper, and pop it under the broiler or in a hot skillet. In minutes, the edges crisped, the onions slightly softened, and the fat soaked in, turning bread into something rich and satisfying. It was paired with cold beer, strong mustard, or pickles, and often served as a working lunch at factory counters or mining camps. Housewives made it on busy afternoons with leftover bread and pantry staples. It might seem too simple today, but onion bread is layered with character, warmth, and history. The smell alone can bring back 100 kitchen memories. Toasted, warm, and a little sharp, this forgotten recipe takes less time than brewing coffee, and satisfies on a level no fancy appetizer ever could. This old-school recipe was once the go-to sick day or tired night dish in kitchens from Appalachia to Chinatown. It takes only 3 ingredients: leftover rice, butter, and an egg. You heat a skillet, melt the butter, add the rice, and stir in a beaten egg until it's creamy and hot. Some added soy sauce or salt, others used chicken broth to punch up the flavor. It was quick, nourishing, and endlessly comforting. Found in both Southern and Asian American cookbooks from the 1930s to 1960s, it bridged cultures in a single bowl. Kids loved it. Moms relied on it. It fed generations without much fuss. Buttered egg rice isn't flashy, but it's warm, soft, and full of gentle flavor. And on days when you need food fast and your heart needs something familiar, this forgotten comfort classic does more than fill your stomach. It heals a little too. This Depression-era treat transformed the barest pantry into dessert. You'd take slices of bread, fry them in bacon grease or butter until golden, then spread them with jelly, jam, or preserves. The frying made the bread crispy outside and tender inside, like a sweet rustic donut. Often served as a quick breakfast or Sunday night supper, it took less than 10 minutes and cost almost nothing. Some families dusted it with sugar or cinnamon, and others served it warm with a glass of milk. It appeared in ration-era cookbooks, church fundraiser pamphlets, and handwritten recipe cards passed between neighbors. Kids considered it a treat, even when groceries were scarce. Today we'd call it pan-fried toast, or country French toast, but the soul of it is the same. Fried bread and jelly is humble, homey, and deeply nostalgic. One bite, and suddenly, you're back in a kitchen where love was always the first ingredient. Which one of these 5 would you try first, or did you grow up eating one of them? Tell us your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it. A lunchbox classic and after-school favorite, bologna roll-ups were the original no-cook, no-fuss wrap. All you needed was a slice of bologna, a swipe of mustard or mayo, and whatever you had to fill it: pickles, cheese sticks, lettuce, even mashed potatoes. Roll it up, stick it with a toothpick, and lunch was ready. Popular in the 1950s and 60s, these roll-ups were served at picnics, cocktail parties, and cafeterias. They were especially loved for their speed and affordability. Some versions were broiled with cheese for a warm snack, but most were served cold, straight from the fridge. Kids loved the finger food format. Moms loved how fast they came together. Today, bologna is rarely a menu star, but it once made the humble roll-up into something fun and memorable. Recreate it once, and you'll understand why this quick bite earned its spot in mid-century cookbooks and lunch bags across America. For Southern kitchens, few meals were faster or more satisfying than grits, and instant grits made it even easier. You'd boil water, stir in the grits, then melt in a bit of butter and shredded cheddar cheese. Add a dash of hot sauce, Texas Pete, Tabasco, or whatever was nearby, and in less than 10 minutes, you had a bowl of comfort ready to go. This dish showed up in diner menus, military mess halls, and quick Southern breakfasts for decades. Sometimes bacon grease stood in for butter. Sometimes you added a poached egg or a spoonful of leftover greens. But even plain, it was filling and flavorful. Instant grits fell out of fashion as breakfast options expanded, but they still hold up when time is short and your stomach's rumbling. Try it again, and you'll see. It's not just a Southern thing. It's a 10-minute tradition worth remembering. This light and quirky dish was a go-to lunch or side in the 1950s health-conscious era. A scoop of full-fat cottage cheese, a few rings or chunks of canned pineapple, and a lettuce leaf underneath. Done. It was sweet, creamy, tangy, and surprisingly filling. Served chilled and plated with care, it became a common sight at church luncheons, nursing homes, and home ec assignments. Some recipes dressed it up with paprika, shredded carrot, or even a cherry on top. It was considered modern, nutritious, and slimming. And best of all, it took less than 5 minutes to prepare. Today the combo seems odd to many, but its balance of protein, acidity, and sweetness is timeless. Bring it back with Greek yogurt or keep it retro with cottage cheese straight from the tub. Either way, this forgotten salad is a fast food throwback worth revisiting. Next up, the canned favorite that once passed as a meatless main dish. And yes, it's still surprisingly satisfying. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. And once upon a time, it was a pantry hero. Creamed corn from a can, heated in a saucepan with a little black pepper or paprika, then spooned generously over hot buttered toast. That's it. In under 10 minutes, you had a sweet, savory, silky snack that stuck to your ribs. It was especially popular in the 40s and 50s when meat was scarce and canned vegetables were a grocery store staple. Some recipes added shredded cheese or chopped onions for flair. Others mixed in bits of leftover ham or Spam when available. Found in wartime cookbooks and factory lunchrooms, it offered warmth and calories in hard times. Today, creamed corn gets little love, but pair it with crusty toast, and it becomes retro comfort food that's greater than the sum of its parts. Try it once, and you'll understand why moms once turned to it again and again. This sweet surprise was a Depression-era dessert made with leftover egg noodles. Boil your noodles, or use leftovers. Drain, then toss with melted butter, a generous sprinkle of cinnamon and sugar. White or brown, both worked. It was served warm in bowls or chilled like pudding. Kids loved it. Moms called it dessert. Some families added raisins or crushed nuts if they were feeling fancy. It took less than 10 minutes to make and cost pennies, which is why it appeared in immigrant kitchens, farmhouses, and old community cookbooks. It may sound odd today, but cinnamon sugar noodles feel like the pasta version of French toast. Cozy, slightly indulgent, and deeply comforting. Served with a cup of milk or tea, it was often a reward at the end of a long, hard day. Rediscover this sweet little trick, and you'll be surprised how quickly it becomes a household favorite again. Which of these fast-forgotten favorites would you serve up first? Cinnamon noodles or creamed corn toast? Drop your pick in the comments. We're all ears. It sounds odd today, but back in the 1940s and 50s, this was the pinnacle of fast, comforting post-war flavor. Toasted white bread, a generous spread of mayo, and thick slices of garden tomato, finished with salt and black pepper. That was it. It took less than 5 minutes, and if you had a fresh tomato on hand, it felt like a little bit of summer on a plate. Some folks added a sprinkle of cheese and broiled it for a minute. Others left it raw for that cool, creamy crunch combo. It became a lunch counter staple and a favorite among budget-conscious homemakers. This quick dish appeared in vintage home economics books as an example of a balanced bite: carbs, fat, veggie. Today, it's all but vanished. But anyone who's tasted it knows how strangely satisfying it is. Creamy, tangy, toasty, fresh. One bite, and you'll be back on a sunlit porch, licking mayo from your fingers. But just ahead, we're heating up the skillet for a breakfast for dinner classic that's wildly overdue for a comeback. This was an old Appalachian go-to when you had apples but no pie crust, and 10 minutes to spare. Just slice a few apples thinly, melt butter in a skillet, and fry them with a sprinkle of sugar and cinnamon. The apples caramelize into soft golden slices that taste like the inside of a pie, without the oven. Served over toast, pancakes, or eaten straight from the pan, they were a fast favorite from Tennessee to Pennsylvania. Some versions added a splash of cider vinegar or lemon juice for brightness. This dish often doubled as breakfast, dessert, or a quick snack between chores. It showed up in farmhouse recipe books and pioneer guides for its speed, sweetness, and simplicity. Today, we overthink dessert, but buttery skillet apples remind us that 3 ingredients and 10 minutes can still create something that feels like love in a bowl. Try it once, and it might just become your new favorite fallback. Yes, this was real. And yes, it worked. When meat was scarce and time was tighter, families took sliced hot dogs, tossed them into a hot skillet with onions, cabbage, and soy sauce or vinegar, and made a 10-minute stir-fry before the term became mainstream. It was served over rice or straight from the pan. Found in mid-century pantry cookbooks and frugal living magazines, this dish was all about stretching a single protein across a whole meal. It became a favorite in military housing, college dorms, and any kitchen where creativity was more plentiful than cash. Some versions added green peppers or leftover spaghetti noodles. Others used barbecue sauce or ketchup for a sweet, tangy twist. It wasn't gourmet, but it was quick, hot, and surprisingly satisfying. Today, it lives mostly in memory, but it's proof that even a humble hot dog can become something inventive when hunger and hustle are in the mix. This wasn't a dish, it was a ritual. You took saltine crackers, spread a thin layer of butter, sprinkled sugar on top, and called it dessert. Sometimes they were toasted under the broiler. Sometimes they were served with tea or warm milk. In mid-century kitchens, these were known as cracker cookies, and they were often the only sweet option when groceries ran low. Kids crunched them at the kitchen table. Moms stacked them on napkins after school. Found in homemaker columns and budget cookbooks, buttered sugar saltines were a Depression-era classic that stuck around through the 70s. Some added cinnamon, some used margarine, but the idea was the same: make something sweet from nearly nothing. Today, they're forgotten, but not gone. One bite will transport you back to a quieter time, when joy came from a cabinet of basics and a mother's quiet genius. This was dinner when payday was still 2 days away. Mix canned tuna with instant mashed potatoes, form into little patties, and fry in butter or oil until golden brown. That's it. In 10 minutes, you had crispy-edged cakes with a warm, fluffy center. Some families added chopped onion or herbs, others used an egg to bind. But the base recipe was always pantry-ready and fast. These cakes appeared in church fundraiser cookbooks, military family recipe boxes, and school newsletters. They were perfect for picky kids, last-minute dinners, and lunch sandwiches. The tuna added protein, the potatoes filled you up, and the crisp texture made it feel special. Today, we lean on frozen fish sticks or takeout, but these humble tuna potato cakes are faster, cheaper, and, honestly, better. Try them once and you'll see. Some forgotten meals still hold up as comfort food gold. Which one of these made you say, "Wait, that sounds good"? Tell us in the comments. Your grandma might have made it, and we're ready to bring it back. From vintage school lunch menus and 1960s cookbooks came this crunchy, sweet miracle. Bananas dipped in milk, rolled in crushed cornflakes, then pan-fried in butter until golden. Served warm, the crispy outside gave way to soft, caramelized fruit inside. You could drizzle honey, dust with cinnamon, or just eat them plain with a fork. This quick treat became popular during the cereal boom when every pantry had a box of cornflakes, and every house had at least one overripe banana. It was common in home ec classes too, teaching kids to turn simple ingredients into fun, fast food. Great as breakfast, dessert, or a snack, it cost pennies and took minutes. It faded as processed snacks took over, but those who remember it know the magic. Try it once, and you'll understand why this dish made so many kids smile. It's crispy, sweet, buttery, and way too easy not to love. This zippy little snack was a post-war staple, popular at baby showers, bridge clubs, and afternoon teas. You'd mash a boiled egg with a bit of mayo, a spoonful of yellow mustard, a pinch of salt, and maybe some chopped pickle. Then you'd scoop it onto saltine crackers or Ritz for instant canapes. It was fast, flavorful, and a clever way to stretch one egg into half a dozen bites. Found in vintage entertaining guides and handwritten family cookbooks. This recipe was also a lifesaver when groceries were low and company showed up unannounced. You could dress it up with parsley or paprika, or leave it plain for a punchy protein-packed snack. Today it's almost vanished, but its tangy simplicity still holds up. If you've got a boiled egg in 10 minutes, you've got an appetizer with history. Egg salad doesn't have to be a sandwich. Sometimes it's a bite-sized blast from the past. But next, how about dessert with only 2 ingredients and a history as sweet as it is simple? Let's finish strong. A beloved Depression-era dessert, this recipe lived on the back of Hershey's syrup cans and in the minds of kids everywhere. You'd toast a slice of bread, butter it while hot, and drizzle with chocolate syrup until it soaked in. Sometimes you'd top it with a scoop of vanilla ice cream or whipped cream for special occasions. It wasn't just quick, it was joy in 10 minutes or less. Popular through the 1930s and 40s, it remained a nostalgic favorite in the 50s and 60s before packaged snacks replaced it. But chocolate milk toast had soul. It was the kind of treat that made you feel rich on a poor day. Kids licked their fingers, moms smiled knowingly, and everyone forgot their worries for a moment. Today, it's nearly forgotten, but it deserves a second look. Simple, sweet, and shockingly good, chocolate toast is the childhood dessert you didn't know you needed. Known in some regions as poor man's pudding, this dish turned plain leftover rice into a warm dessert in under 10 minutes. You'd heat cooked rice with butter, then sprinkle in sugar and cinnamon, stirring until it turned fragrant and golden. Some families added milk for a creamier version, others raisins or a dash of vanilla. It was especially common in Scandinavian and Eastern European households, passed down through generations as both comfort and tradition. This sweet rice was often breakfast, dessert, or a mid-afternoon pick-me-up. Served warm in a bowl or even wrapped in cloth for school lunches, it was a favorite among kids who didn't have store-bought snacks. Though rice pudding still survives, this fast stovetop version has mostly vanished. But it's a reminder that sweetness doesn't have to come from a box. It can come from memory, a little cinnamon, and the smell of something simple and warm cooking on the stove. If you know, you know. 2 slices of white bread, a thick swipe of butter, and a sprinkle of white or brown sugar. That's it. Served cold, open-faced, or toasted. It was the simplest sweet snack many Depression and wartime-era kids ever knew. Found in family scrapbooks, passed down as a treat when there was nothing else, this sandwich filled bellies and hearts alike. Some variations included cinnamon, others swapped sugar for honey or molasses. It was a reward after chores, a quick breakfast, or a hush-hush after-dinner secret when sweets were scarce. Butter and sugar sandwiches rarely show up today, but for those who ate them, the memory lingers like childhood itself. Golden, a little messy, and somehow perfect. Recreate it now, not for nostalgia's sake, but because it's still delicious. One bite, and you'll understand how love, hunger, and imagination once turned 2 plain slices into a celebration. Did you ever eat one of these poor man desserts growing up? Or just rediscover a favorite? Share your story in the comments. We're collecting every crumb of memory. I hope you enjoyed this journey through quick, forgotten classics. Which 10-minute treasure surprised you most? Bring these back to your table. They're fast, flavorful, and full of heart. Until